The air is filled with a crisp October breeze, and as the leaves rustle and fall to the ground, adults across the United States prepare for that annual spectacle. You soon will hear the unmistakable sound of tiny fists knocking on doors, and behind those doors, a world of anticipation is about to be unlocked. The coveted prize? Candy. Today we call it trick-or-treating, but how did this strange tradition come to be, and just how far back does it go? In the modern era, trick-or-treating has become a sacred rite of Halloween, a beloved custom celebrated far and wide. But this captivating tale begins far earlier, over 2 millennia ago, in the mystical Celtic lands. In those ancient times, a festival known as Samhain marked the New Year's Day, falling on November 1st. It was a time when the boundaries between the world of the living and the world of the dead grew thin. The Celts believed that demons, fairies, and spirits of the departed roamed this earthly realm. To pacify these otherworldly guests and protect themselves from their mischievous ways, the Celts kindled bonfires and offered food as offerings to these troublesome spirits. Clever disguises were made and worn as well to escape the notice of these wandering spirits, even if these disguises were just a new animal hide draped over their shoulders. As the centuries unfolded their secrets, the Celtic celebration of Samhain began to transform. In the 7th century, Pope Gregory III, in an attempt to oust the pagan holidays of Samhain, established November 1st as All Saints' Day, also known as All Hallows' Day, a day to honor all saints of the Church that have attained heaven. The evening before All Saints' Day became a holy or hallowed eve, eventually shortened to Halloween. As our whimsical journey through time unfolds, we find ourselves in the 16th century England. Here, a unique custom was prevalent. Poor people would visit the houses of wealthier families and receive pastries called soul cakes in exchange for a promise to pray for the souls of the homeowner's dead relatives who were believed to be in purgatory. This act was known as souling. The practice was later taken up by children who would go from door to door asking for gifts such as food, money, and ale for their families. This innocent act marked an early chapter in the evolution of trick-or-treating. In Scotland and Ireland, young people took part in a tradition called guising, dressing up in a costume and accepting offerings from various households. Rather than pledging to pray for the dead, they would sing a song, recite a poem, tell a joke, or perform another sort of trick before collecting their treat, which typically consisted of fruits, nuts, or coins. The costumes evolved too at this time, taking a scary turn when young Scottish and Irish pranksters got the idea to spook unsuspecting neighbors during the night. But as we venture further into the depths of history, it's worth noting that the roots of trick-or-treating may have a more recent origin, surprisingly inspired by Christmas traditions of all things. In the 18th and 19th century, eastern United States and Canada saw the flourishing of a Christmas custom known as bell snickling. This intriguing practice bore striking similarities to that of trick-or-treating. Groups of costume participants would visit homes, perform tricks in exchange for food and drink. Some even deliberately frightened young children at houses before asking if their act had been good enough to deserve a treat. It's fascinating to note that those giving out treats had to guess the identities of those disguised guests, giving food to anyone they couldn't recognize. It is very possible that trick-or-treating evolved from this tradition, as some American colonists celebrated a version of Halloween around the same time. But it wasn't until the mid-19th century that we would see the holiday really take hold in the New World. A large number of new immigrants, especially those fleeing the Irish potato famine in the 1840s, brought over their customs and beliefs, which helped popularize Halloween in America. In the early 20th century, Irish and Scottish communities revived the old world traditions of souling and guising in the United States. However, pranks had become the Halloween activity of choice for rowdy young people. The tricks of this time took on a playful dimension. Windows would shut abruptly during the night and doors would mysteriously shake, creating the illusion of supernatural forces at play. Some homeowners offered candy as a protective offering to dissuade pranksters who might wreak havoc. One common trick that they loved to do during the night was to disassemble farm equipment and assemble it on the rooftop of the house. These imaginative pranks gave rise to the famous phrase, trick or treat. A man named Barry Povick traced the earliest use of this phrase in connection with Halloween to a 1927 Alberta newspaper article that reported on pranksters demanding trick-or-treated houses. As our journey approaches the mid-20th century, we find ourselves in a world profoundly different from its Celtic origins. The tradition of trick-or-treating began to spread its roots in the United States, and a lot of these over-the-top tricks that people were participating in would die out thanks to the sugar rationing of World War II. It was much harder to get candy and various treats during this time, so tricksters didn't have much of an incentive to continue their antics. But after the Second World War, sugar rationing came to an end, and candy became readily available again. Rapid suburban development also created the ideal setting for children to journey from house to house with ease, and in the 1950s, Halloween imagery and merchandising began to reflect the growing enthusiasm for the holiday, transforming it into a more consumerist affair. Costumes evolved from simple, homemade attire mimicking ghosts and pirates to mass-produced outfits that imitated beloved TV and movie characters, adding a fresh layer of excitement to the Halloween tradition. As modern-day trick-or-treating gained prominence, the convenience of handing out individually wrapped candies overtook the practice of offering things like apples, nuts, or homemade goodies, although some rare houses do still hand those out. Candy first made its appearance in the 1800s at American Halloween parties as taffy, and it quickly became the ultimate treat. Children came to expect candy on Halloween, and chocolate reigned supreme as the most popular treat to hand out. By 2009, Halloween had become the leading U.S. holiday for chocolate sales, a trend that persists to this day. Yet even as trick-or-treating became a wholesome family activity, the 1960s brought forth urban myths that cast a shadow of a doubt on the safety of accepting candy from strangers. Tales of razor blades hidden in apples and candy laced with drugs emerged, weaving eerie layers of the fabric of Halloween folklore. But even with these yearly cautionary tales, Halloween, now the nation's second largest commercial holiday, shows no sign of slowing down. Americans spend billions on Halloween candy, with Reese's Peanut Butter Cups reigning as the favorite candy among all. Even the polarizing candy corn, first manufactured in the 1880s, maintains its status as a Halloween classic, despite consistently ranking as America's least favorite Halloween candy. Millions of pounds are produced annually, with the majority destined for Halloween festivities. And so, as the years have rolled on, the tradition of trick-or-treating has transformed from an ancient Celtic custom to a heartwarming sugar-filled celebration, echoing the ghost of traditions past. That's all I got for you on the history of trick-or-treating. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one. See you then.